everybody. My name is Tatiana. I'm a customer engineer at Google Cloud, and today we're going to be talking to you about how to migrate and modernize with Google Cloud. Today we are joined with three more customer engineers, myself, Eloise, and Gabrielle. So the agenda of today is comprised of the introduction to why to migrate, why migrate to Google Cloud, how to migrate to Google Cloud, some tips and tools that can help you migrate, and some financial operations that can help you optimize for cost as you're migrating, and some next steps. So with the introduction, when you own the infrastructure in which your servers run and your application run, it's not a differentiator. Actually, it's a burden. Why? Because you have to train the staff, first of all. And if you hire new staff, you have to continue training them continuously. And then after that, you have legacy systems that are bound to the hardware. That means that every time you write code, you have to be hardware aware of the implementation that you are doing, which causes you to have legacy code. And then you have inflexible resources. Let's say, for example, you want to decide to go global and you are only based in the US. How are you going to suddenly plant data center all over the world so that you can be on-prem and global in an instant? It's kind of impossible unless you become a cloud provider yourself. So when you have spike in traffic, when you have new customer, when you have new feature requests, you find that your hardware is actually dragging you down like a burden instead of pushing you forward to the innovation. And as of a result, you found out that the capital expenditure and the operational expenditure are two things different that have a very high contrast. So you found that when you own, the cost of owning itself is very heavy. The unit cost is also very heavy. But when you just use what you need and then discharge it when you no longer need it, you find that you only care about the operational expenses, which is the side where you are only paying for what you need. The lower unit cost as well. You can decide today I want 100 servers and tomorrow I don't need them anymore because my spec is gone. As a result, you have high return on investment when you only use for what you need, and rapid scalability as well because you can go up and down with the needs of your business. And in the end, you find that you innovate fast as well because when a new technology comes up, you are up for it already instead of worrying about what hardware does this need. If you're gonna ask just for an example, we can compare about the cost of owning versus using Google Cloud. In gray and blue, we have the compute side. In 3 years, we can see that the blue is still lower than the gray. Because if you spend, let's say, for example, 5 million on premise with 617 VMs, it will only cost you 2 millions in Google Cloud. And in 3 years, you will have saved $2 million. When it comes to storage, this is the biggest differentiator. In cloud, the storage is very, very cheap because when you don't access your files, you don't have to pay for them, or you pay really very cheap for them. And you can see that in black, we have the cost of storage in Google Cloud, whereas in yellow, we have the biggest money that you'll be spending on premise by keeping those hard drive and tapes up and running. So as a result, business leaders are under the pressure of delivering quickly, especially with the rise of AI. You want to deliver as fast as the AI world is continuing. And that pushes many of them up to 63% to move to the cloud because it helps them innovate faster and keep up and catch up with the needs of their businesses. So what's keeping you for moving forward today? I know that there might be some blockers, for example, security concerns. You might be wondering, will it be compliant? What if the data center blow up? But what if your data center on-premise also blows up? In cloud, if the data center blows up, you have redundancy because clouds plant zones and also regions, as we'll see later, in many countries. So if you're serving the US, we have US East, you have US Central, you have US West, and also parts in the US where you have data centers. So if New York, let's say, for example, blows up, you still have your data in US Central, in Iowa, and so on and so forth. So it's easier for your data not to be lost if it's in cloud than if you are keeping for yourself. And then the other concern might be migration concern. It's too complex to migrate. There are tools that will help you migrate, as we will see later with my colleague Eloise. And also lack of cloud knowledge. So I don't know how these cloud things work. There's an adage that says that just because you spend a long time making a mistake doesn't mean you have to carry on with it. So I'm not saying that it's a mistake to be on-prem, but in the age of AI today, it's dragging you down more than moving you forward. Because in cloud, not only you have labs, you also have intuitive interfaces that will help you move forward. You also have custom engineers like us who will help you engineer solutions for your use cases. And not just that, you also have partners who will help you implement those solutions. And not just that, we also have support system if you ever have bugs with cloud product, etc. So it's a big benefit and not a drag down to be in the cloud today. Another problem might be cost. People think usually that it's expensive to be in cloud, but as you have seen earlier, it's more expensive to be on premise instead. You might say that the support is too complex, I have to go through queues, etc. But we have tiers that can even reply to you in hours instead of waiting days for the support to come. Another issue that usually here is vendor locking. I don't want to just know this one cloud. Vendor locking is now becoming more of a myth than it is a reality. Why? Because not only Google Cloud, we have an open mindset in the sense that we contribute a lot in open source products. You will also have multi-cloud solutions, a bit like Anthos, which is a product that can sit in the middle of all of your cloud. Let's say, for example, you decide to stay a bit on-prem, to use a different cloud and also do the Google Cloud. With Anthos, it's a product that can allow you to have an interface that oversees all of those systems at once. Also, you might be hearing that I heard that when you want to leave now Google Cloud or when you want to leave a public cloud, you have to pay very high egress costs. With some cloud, you might, but with Google Cloud, it's free now if you ever decide to leave. And also, some people say, okay, this data center, they're spending a lot of carbon in the environment, so it's not really green. Google Cloud is a green cloud, and we are carbon neutral at the moment. And by 2030, we are planning to be carbon free. So you can have the ethical peace of mind that you are running on clean cloud, and also that you're not going to be vendor locked. The cost is lower, and so many benefits that you have just mentioned. Now, why Google Cloud? There are so many public cloud. Why Google Cloud? So our strategy basically lies in the robustness of our cloud. So you're going to be running on the infrastructure on which the biggest application run, YouTube, Gmail, search. Your application is going to be next of those applications. So you can be assured that it's a cloud that has been tested for other robust applications. We also have a team of developers that maintain this application. So it's not just something that is sitting out there for open source people to contribute. Yes, you have open source products, but you also have developers that are dedicated to contribute to it. So your data also is encrypted at rest and in transit, and your data is yours in Google Cloud. You have complete control over your data, what you do with it, and how your application uses it. Google Cloud does not own your data or does not do things with your data, unless that's what you want Google Cloud to do, or you give them the permission when you want something. Let's say for support system, you want them to see your code so that they can fix something. So that's the time when you might give the permission. So we need to ask you for permission when you want to interact with something that concerns your data. Security concern as well. With Google Cloud, security is built in, it's not just bottled in. We started with security in mind. A bit like when you buy a car, it comes with a seat built in. Same with Google Cloud. We have products that allows you to build securely. And if you ever decide to have an external security module like an HSM, for example, it's still possible with Google Cloud as well. Let's say, for example, you have super confidential information. You can still have them securely stored in Google Cloud, and you can only decide how they will be accessed. We also have agents and applications, and solutions that are fully managed as well, and solutions that are gonna be built by you. It's up to you how you decide to build in Google Cloud. But we have all the solution, a bit like contact center AI, which is a call center solution that allows you to just apply it. It's fully managed as well, stuff like that. And lastly, we have Google Workspace as well, which allows you to collaborate with your team. So it's not just you're not just building, you're also collaborating with the team, and AI is infused in all of this product because Google is an AI first company. And like I've mentioned a bit earlier, so we have we have data center in many places in the world, more than 200 edge points where you can serve your data closer to your user. We have 42 regions in which we serve, and we are continuing to expand. And we have 127 zones. So if one blows up, you have the data in another one, no problem. So what are the reasons why you should move to Google Cloud? You own and control your data is the first reason, not Google Cloud. So your data, how it will be used, how we will be interacting with it, our application will be using it, why you give permissions to and what you deny is up to you. And also you might have compliance regulations that tells you to keep your data only in a specific region. It's also possible, as you will see later. So your data and application are available when you need them. So if you decided that you want to scale up certain machines or certain products, you can do that when you need it. It's not like you have to wait for a phone call for some supplier to give you GPUs or to give you VMs. That's not the case. We have even the latest machines that you can find when you're buying them yourself. So your data protection is core to everything that we do. We respect your data and we respect our customers. So you can satisfy your compliance and regulation requirements as well. So you might be bound to certain regulations, such as in globally, you might have the ISO ones. In the US, you might have the HIPAA and so forth. In the Europe, you might have GDPR. In Australia, you might have APP, stuff like that. So we are compliant with this depending on the product that you use and depending on the of what you want to use them for. So it's just up to just looking at the documentation and see if it's compliance for what you're trying to achieve. And lastly, you can innovate responsibly. As I've said earlier, Google is a green cloud, first of all, and we are trying to be carbon free by 2030. And also, diversity and inclusion is a very big thing in Google Cloud. So you can leverage data sets that and reports that are being deployed for a very varied example. And also, when we release product, we have this responsibility mindset, especially responsible AI. We don't release a product that is useful and harmful at the same time. It's only one or the other. And when it's harmful, we don't until it becomes useful. So you can rest assured that you are building next to, to people and teams that have responsibility in mind, and you're going to be serving also responsibility that's going to be carrying through your data. So now we have also a lot of applications that can help you solve pretty much anything that you can think of, from compute to developer tools and APIs, to operations, to identity, to networking, to big data, machine learning, and so forth, even collaboration, Notebook LM, Google Docs, Gmail. All these products, they are part of Google Cloud, because this is Google Cloud and Workspace. And all of these allow you to build the latest application and the bestest application that you can have on the market. And our unified AI stack is comprised with 4 pillars. So it starts with application that you can readily use, so you don't always have to build from scratch. We have applications that can allow you to automatically use API, like Gemini APIs that we can offer. You can see them to the Google Cloud, latest, bettest model that we have. You can decide to do the same thing that you do on premise, for example, to have your own GPUs, and own TPUs, and own VM to build things from scratch. It's possible. You just don't have to have the burden of owning the infrastructure. Here, you can release them when you don't no longer need, when you no longer need them, and you can acquire them when you continue to need them as well. In the middle, we have Vertex AI, which is our unified platform for everything AI. It contains model gardens, which comprises of Gemini models from Google, but also partner models like from Anthropic, from Mistral, etc. We also have open source model like DeepSeek and also Gemma from Google that you can deploy and start using them in your application. And on the data part, we also have multimodal data, we also have vector search, we also have tools for data scientists and teams that your team might have already. And to finish, we also have Google Workspace, like I mentioned briefly. So it comprises all the tools that allows you to collaborate as a team, and it has AI infused. Gemini Advanced is part of it. And Google Docs, all these files, you can decide the permissions that you give. The administrator can decide all of those, and it comprises also Notebook LM Plus, which is a subset of Gemini Enterprise. If you look at the right top, you can see you have Google Gemini Enterprise. So it comprises Notebook LM as well. And in Workspace, you have Notebook LM Plus, which allows you to search in your files and to answer questions, also create podcasts in your files. And also with Gemini Enterprise, you can interact with the latest models, like to create images like Nano Banana. You can also interact with video to create videos as well. So all of these things you get with Google Cloud. And if you want to migrate, it's going to help you to innovate and move faster and also move ethically with all of these things. And these are my part. I'm not going to pass to my colleague Eloise, who's going to talk to you about how to migrate.
Thank you so much, Tatiana. And hello, everyone. I know that you just heard a lot of about why you should migrate to the cloud. So let's get into the next big question. How do you actually do it? In the next few minutes, I will show you the path and the tools that Google provides to make your migration a success. And I like this image a lot because I know that migrating to the cloud might look like climbing a mountain. From a distance, it might look very big and challenging, but just like climbing a mountain, you don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to do it alone. With the right tools and the right guidance, you can do it much more efficiently and faster. And I also know that most of our customers, they have the same questions. How do I get there? How do I move my technology? How do I make sure that I'm keeping my data safe? How do I manage my teams? How do we adapt to these new processes? And And this journey is not only about the technology, it's about also the people and the processes. So imagine, how do you see your cloud transition? It's not the same for everyone. For you, for example, it could be a tactical move. So let's say that you want to reduce your costs. You want to move from your existing servers, from your data center to the cloud to save money on hardware and maintenance. It could be a strategic move. So you're looking for more value. You might want to redesign your application to be cloud native, to make it more scalable, more efficient. Think about building a modern web application that can handle millions of users. And this change could also be transformational. So you might want to migrate to the cloud to do things that were not possible before in your current infrastructure. For example, use AI to make real time predictions, use generative AI, and so on. And of course, you can start with a tactical approach and evolve to a more transformational uh, change in the future. The most important thing is that your goals are well defined from the beginning. So to help you with this strategy, we broke down the migration strategy into 6 R's, which we recommend you pick before you start migrating, so you have a better idea of what you want to do. And those 6 R's, it might sound a little bit technical, but it's actually quite simple. We can, for example, think about it like moving to a new house. You might just want to repurchase. Sometimes it's just easier to get a new house from scratch already built in. You might just want to, for example, use a software as a service. So just get your something that did what your old application did, but without the maintenance. Buy something new, move directly to SaaS. You might want to rehost. This would be more like a lift and shift. So, in the house example, you will pack your boxes, which are your applications, and move them straight to their new house, which will be the cloud, without changing much. Just lift and shift. It's a fast and great way to start. You might also want to replatform. By replatform, what we mean is that you could make some small but smart changes as you move. For example, you're moving to your new house and you might decide that you want to buy a new, more efficient washing machine. In the cloud, this could be like moving your databases to a fully managed database service so that you can reduce your operational cost. And finally, you can be a little bit more transformational and choose to refactor or re-architect or rebuild. These are more advanced strategies for those of you that want to make more significant changes to the application, to take the advantage of the full power of the cloud. It would be like doing a full renovation to your house to make it like your dream house. You don't need to choose just one, right? Your platform, it's made out of multiple pieces. You might want to choose to lift and shift some parts or to re-architect others. You don't need to choose just one. You can mix and match those strategies for different applications, and we will have managed products in Google Cloud that will help you to host it as you plan in your strategy. And to guide you through this journey, we have a 4 step framework. And it's a cycle because a migration is not just a one time project, it's a journey that you continuously improve until you reach a state where you're like happy, but then you could do more. So you innovate. The first step is to assess. So you need to understand, what do you have? What are your applications? What is the data? What are the dependencies? What kind of licensing do you want? What is the budget? And all of that. Then you have to plan. So create a roadmap. You decide what you want to move, when to move it, how to move it. You build your cloud foundations and your landing zones, which would be basically the first basic infrastructure of how your application would look like in the cloud. Then you migrate, which is the actual execution. You move your applications and your data to the cloud. We have tools that can help you with application migrations and data migrations. Finally, once you're ready, once you're migrated, you can innovate and optimize. And in this part, you can use, for example, start to use AI, or you can start to modernizing by containerizing some applications, refactoring, re-architecting, and so on. And of course, you will repeat this cycle as you learn and improve with each migration wave. Okay, so we have a framework, but now let's talk about what kind of tools do we have to make it easy, fast, and safe for you to move your workloads to Google Cloud. The heart of our migration toolkit's Google Cloud's Migration Center. You can think of it as a central station for your entire migration, from the very first step of estimating costs to the final step of moving your applications. We have tools to help you out with Migration Center. The best part is that it's a free tool and it can live inside your Google Cloud project, so you have full control over your data. And it is designed to be very easy to use so you can ramp up quickly with minimal training. Inside Migration Center, we have 5 very straightforward steps on how you would migrate to the cloud. The first one is that you can get, if you want, a quick estimate of how much it would cost to run your environment in Google Cloud. Then you can discover, which is you can use Migration Center to automatically discover all of your infrastructure and applications to understand what you need, what is your current state, and be tactical about how are you gonna migrate to the cloud, what kind of services can you use. Then we can assess your current infrastructure, which would give you more clarity on what should be the migration path for your workloads, the recommendations for this migration path, and what would be to define your future state in the cloud. And then you can, of course, plan. So group your applications into migration waves that will make sense on what parts should you move first, what parts should you move later, and finally you can migrate with all the tools that we have to help you out to execute this migration. And let's have a quick look at those steps. But first, I wanted to show you how the home screen of Migration Center looks like. So you can see that we have tools for estimation, for assessment, for planning, for migrating, and you can just click through it, and it's quite straightforward to get started. So the first step is to estimate. If you want, you can use Migration Center for it. In the past, you would cost us weeks to get an estimation, but with Migration Center, you can get a high level estimation in minutes. The only thing you need to do is to provide some basic information like the number of CPUs, what is your storage, what's your memory footprint, what type of workloads are you using. For example, are you using Oracle, SAP, BigQuery? It is not a full assessment, but it's a quick way to get an estimate of how much your project will cost in Google Cloud. And then the output's very clear. You get a total estimate of your cloud spend based on a cost projection over time, and you can easily export this report to PDF or Sheets. Next, discover and assess. This is where you get real data, right? So Migration Center can find your servers and what's running on them. And so, for example, we have the Migration Center Discovery client, which you can install, and it's recommended for ongoing intelligence and right sizing. If you want to just one time sweep, you can use the Migration Center Discovery Client CLI. And of course, if you don't want to install anything, you can bring data from other clouds like AWS or Azure. You can use Migration Center scripts for that. So you don't need to install anything if you don't want. And the best part is that this process is built on trust and control. So your data is stored in your Google Cloud project for data privacy. And we also support sovereignty. It's fully compliant. In the access phase, it's where you chart your path. Migration Center will provide you with insights into your current environment, will help you determine what is your technical fit for Google Cloud. For some services like Compute Engine or Cloud SQL, we have machine learning based algorithms that can offer you some accurate right sizing recommendations, and it can explore different scenarios like region and instance types, and there are easy what if analysis to provide a single and comprehensive total cost of ownership report. So, in the discovery and assessment part, for example, if we look at assessment for VMs, you can have a granular view of your virtual machine. So, you can look at what software is running inside each VM, and you can analyze the fit for various Google Cloud targets. So, for example, if lift and shift to compute engine or modernization with GKE or Cloud Run in containers. Those reports are available directly in Migration Center Discovery Client. And so you need that give you more data to make informed decisions. As I said, you will have a consolidated report afterwards, and this is more or less how it looks like. It's a unified view that will let you visualize all your assets, technical readiness, and cost estimates to ensure that you have a clear data-driven approach as you move into the plan and migrate phases. So once you have all those insights from the assessment, you can plan your migration in what we call waves. A migration wave is just kind of like a group of applications that you will migrate together, and you can group those applications in a way that makes sense for your business. For example, for your first wave, you might want to choose the applications that have high business value but are also easy to migrate, and this gives you a quick win and help you to learn in the process. And then you can move into more complex applications in later waves. This approach makes your whole migration process much more manageable. For the migrate step, which is the actual execution, we have a set of powerful free tools that can get your workload smooth. For example, you can use migrate to virtual machines to easily lift and shift your servers. You can migrate to containers if you want to modernize your applications and make them more agile. Move them to Google Kubernetes engine or Cloud Run, for example. We also have the database migration service to simplify moving your database with minimum downtime. We also have BigQuery migration service for data warehousing. And of course, you can get help from Gemini as it is integrated with a lot of those services. Of course, if you want to use a third party partner, we also have it available for you to help you out in this migration journey. Let's also talk about moving data. We recommend using storage transfer service to move your data from other clouds to cloud storage, from other cloud providers, or even from on premises if you have good internet connection. It makes it quite easy to move data from your other clouds directly to cloud storage or even from on premise. And what if you don't have a good internet connection to move, for example, from on premises? Then we have the transfer appliance. Let's say that you have a massive amount of data, hundreds of terabytes. Your internet cannot handle it. What you can do is we can send you a physical high capacity storage box. We ship it to you directly to your data center. You can load your data onto it and ship it back to us, and we will upload it securely and quickly for you into the cloud. It's a game changer if you need to do a large scale data migration, for example. So, to quickly sum up the key messages from my part of this presentation, you're not alone on this journey, right? Google provides you the framework, the tools, and the support to guide you every step of the way. And when I talk about support, I'm also talking about bringing a group of people that can help you out in your journey. You have your Google Cloud Account Manager, which will take care of the more business side. You have customer engineers like me and Tatiana and Gabrielle that will also help you out from a technical perspective to understand what is the best path for you to move. We have training and certifications and webinars like this one. And we also have Google Cloud support if, for example, there are bugs in your environment. If you decide that you don't want to do the migration yourself, you can always use a migration partner that we also help you to connect with to just make everything much more manageable. Speaking of support, we have a lot of flexible offerings so you can get access to experts directly that can look at your logs, help you troubleshoot as you go. We have standard, enhanced, and premium support, every support needs that you have. We also want to help your team grow, so we provide a lot of training resources. We have Google Cloud Skills, and in Google Cloud Skills, you have a lot of free trainings, hands-on labs, and many other online courses and that you can use your organization can use to upskill yourselves. Here are some of the learning paths. So you have infrastructure modernization, data management, AI, ML, data analytics. We have leadership paths. We have business trainings, everything that you need to get your organization up and running into this transformation. So I covered the how and the tools, but once you're in the cloud, how do you actually manage your spending and ensure that you're getting the best possible value out of your experience? And that brings us to the next topic, which is FinOps. And to talk about it, I'd like to hand it over to my colleague, Gabrielle. Thank you so much. And over to you, Gabrielle.
Hello guys, so let's go to the last part of our presentation. Let's talk a little bit about FinOps. And I'm gonna say to you how to optimize your costs and visualize where are your spends come from. So when we're talking about FinOps, we don't have a canonical concept here. FinOps is a kind of collaboration between different areas aiming the same objectives. For example, different areas like technology, finance, marketing tries to achieve business value and financial accountability. So it's a combination, it's a process that came together different areas in the same way. And came to your minds the question. So Cloud FinOps isn't only about cost optimization? The answer is no. Cloud FinOps is about value. So let's dive deep a little bit about in the concept. When it's talking about FinOps, we'll have different activities here. Operate, optimize, and inform. I'm gonna say a little bit more about the activities during the next slides. So first, inform. That is, empower your people with the right tools and data. The first thing here, guys, is how to allocate your costs. For example, the financial area needs to know where the costs come from. A database that is used by a market area needs to be allocated to the marketing budgets. So you can work with labels or tags. Inside the resource, you can allocate the resource in a specific label, and then later, when you check in the report and forecast, you will see that specific costs came from a specific area. Do you know? And you have all the stuffs inside Google Cloud Platform. You have different reports where you can check your costs, you can check your tags, and you can check your forecast usage in the same month. And you can, for example, export the reports to BigQuery, that is a powerful data warehouse platform. Another thing that you can do is to configure forecast. Forecast is a kind of guardrail. For example, if you have a budget in the month of $10,000, you can configure a guardrail, a budget to tell you if your budget is on 50%, for example. For example, if you now are spending $5,000, the Google Cloud going to send you an email telling user now your spend is $5,000. This is the idea. You can configure guardrails budget to know how your spending is increasing during the month and get the advice how the thing is working. So let's talk a little bit about optimize your costs, how to eliminate waste in cloud usage. The first thing here, guys, that is effort against savings. So you have a lot of different savings opportunities inside the cloud, but how to choose what saving opportunities I will work first? You need to take in mind that it's best to prioritize something that have a low effort and a high saving. For example, you can hire a committed use discount, call it CUDs, that is in just few clicks, you can hire it. So the effort is really low, but the savings is really right. So the strategy, the way, the sequence to do the things is really important here, guys. And I have some tips to you to how to save money, how to do a really good FinOps strategy. The first thing is always try to use serverless services. For example, if you are using a serverless service, you're gonna pay just for the use. You not need to keep your infra up and running 24 per 7. You're gonna pay just when you use. For example, Cloud Run, Kubernetes Engine, and other kinds of services. And Google Cloud have a stack of serverless services that you can use with your FinOps strategy. Second tip here, guys, is we have some specific machine types for different kinds of workload when we're talking about compute. So you need to choose the correct type of machine. For example, if you have a AI ML workload, you can use TPU series that are workloads specialized in massively parallel compute. If you are just using for dev test or something like that, you can use, for example, E-series that are really cheaper. So we have different types of machines that you can choose for different types of workloads. If you use the correct machine with the correct workloads, you're gonna to save some money here. Tip number three, you can cut some overheads, for example, maintenance, with managed data service. If you hire, for example, a Cloud SQL services for your database, Cloud SQL is a platform as a service solution. So you don't need to have something in the infra of your database, like backups, installation, and stuff like that. Tip number four, guys. For example, when we're talking about storage, cloud storage, you have different tiers according with your access frequency. For example, if you access your data with high frequency, you can use, for example, a standard tier that your data will be available, high available. But if you just need the cloud storage for backups and with a really low frequency access, you can consider use something like CodeLine and Nearline that will be a cheaper price per gigabyte. Will be a good strategy here. And you don't need to use just one. You can have a combination of tiers according with different workloads and all the tiers with the same API. Tip number five, guys, optimize network designs in zones and regions. For example, the cloud providers charge for outbound data transfer. So it's really important to keep your resources, for example, with internal network so the traffic will be just inside the region. You have you have service tiering, for example, for deliver your traffic. You can use, for example, premier tier, but you have a cheaper option of standard tier for less demand resource. And you can use the cloud CDN to reduce traffic and volume with low latency. For example, to deliver your content easier to the final user, you can take the leverage of CDN. Tip number six, guys, you can evaluate different discounts for your workloads. So, if you have a stateless virtual machine, you can use, for example, spot VMs that have more discounts. But if you have a virtual machine that is not stateless, you can consider to commit with a CUD of 1 or 3 years. So you're gonna have some discounts too. You have different options here of discount according with your workload needs. Tip number seven, guys. Use FinOps Hub. FinOps Hub is a free service that is available for all the users in Google Cloud. Just type in the search box FinOps Hub that you're gonna see some recommendations of savings. And this recommendation is according with your environment metadata, so it's really precise and really important here. You can configure to receive some specific recommendation, and you're gonna see different top recommendations here in your screen. For example, recommendations of purchase 3-year goods, recommendation of right sizing, recommendation of shutdown idle resources, all the recommendations come from your environment metadata. So it's really have a really strong bond with your usage partner. And guys, the last part of FinOps, but not less important, is operates. How to ensure efficient cloud usage through financial accountability. The idea here, the first principle here is, for example, you make some strategy that take on consideration the individual accountability. For example, the cloud spend needed to be visible. The ownership of the cloud spend needed to be visible between different users and different areas. You need to educate the users about the importance of cloud optimization and cloud FinOps. Because cloud is really good, you have everything available, but you're gonna pay for your usage. So you have to take in consideration how to use the best strategy to do it. And maybe reward your employees, who optimize the costs. Principle number two, guys, make some community collaboration across your company. For example, you can build a cost optimization community. You can create knowledge bases with best practice and with important discoveries. And you can run, for example, if something happen that generate a big cost, you can run post-mortems, but blame as one. And principle number three, you can always have a dev, not an infrastructure approach, because at dev you can, of course, reduce management overheads, né, using serverless and some kind of strategies, but you can correlate cloud usage to business value easier. So it's always think about app dev. It's not something written on the stone, but some strategy that is important to keep in your mind. Just to finish in here, guys, the next steps. We have three next steps. Please check your email inbox. You're going to receive incoming emails with details about migration and important information. You can, of course, contact us. You can talk with your sales team. If you have some projects, some migration needs, you can count on us here. And you can subscribe and join, for example, Google Cloud newsletter with important information, with new product release. And you can join Google Cloud community of experts and peers. In my name of Tatiana and Luis, we want to say thank you for your participation, and we hope you enjoyed the presentation, and see you later. Thank you, guys.